before I put up this next section of video, I just wanted to point out that this video series is not designed to do anything other than explain and show people how they can twin turbo their Corvette. You can look at my videos and you can figure out how to put gauges on your car, how to use an oil pressure gauge as a fuel pressure gauge. You can figure out how to upgrade your fuel system, and now I'm showing you how to put a turbo kit on your car. So Phobia Street's a pretty cool company. The guy is just top notch. He's just checking in, trying to make sure that I get his turbo kit installed. And come to find out, the turbo kit that I actually have was custom made with larger tubing, different turbos, and even the intercooler piping was set up to be different, which is cool. You know, I bought the kit secondhand, but just keep that in mind. You know, the kit doesn't fit, so I'm doing some things to make it fit on my car because it wasn't designed for my car. But the guy from Phobia Street picks really high quality materials. His welds are just beautiful. I have to say that. The welds on the pipes are really cool looking. Nothing compared to my trash AlumaWeld pipe joining things. But a lot of this is just preference, and a lot of it's just what I'm doing. But if you called the guy and talked to him, he would build you a kit to do whatever you wanted it to do. He'd put bigger piping, smaller piping, you know, he'd do whatever. So just keep that in mind. But here you go. Here's more videos. In this video, so what I've done so far is this pipe that was right here, I cut it off right here, and this piece was attached here, but it was curved, and what that did is whenever I put the pipe in here, it curved everything down toward the ground, and it wasn't long enough to connect to the other pipe. So I cut that end off. And earlier, whenever I was doing the pipes for the rocker panel, I actually had to cut off this section right here. So what I decided to do was cut the angled part off of this pipe and then weld this section on there because it's got this nice rolled tip on it to help hold the couplers in place. So now I've got just barely enough pipe to meet right there, but now I'm gonna have to spend a lot of time trying to shape it so that I can get these two parts to meet up. But that's where I'm at right now. Alright, well, I got it kind of tacked in place in one or two places, and it actually mates up fairly well. Doesn't fit as perfect as I would like it to. And here's something that's interesting. There's a hole right here that's already tapped, and I've got to have something to support this. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to create a bracket that I can screw in right there, and it'll go down here, and I'll just weld it to this thing. I got to find me some good strips of aluminum first. So I got the pipe. If you can see, there's some little hammer marks in here. One of the good things about aluminum is it's extremely moldable, as long as you don't go too far. So just some taps with the hammer closed everything down and got everything the right shape. Now I'm going to clean up everything, wipe it down, and then it'll be ready for welding. now I just got to do that all the way around the pipe. One thing I noticed is that you have to heat, and if you start trying to stick it before it's hot enough, it'll just melt the rod and it won't stick to the metal. The other thing I noticed is that if you just pull the heat away really fast and it cools, it shrinks and you get lots of pinholes. So if you just keep the heat on it and then back the heat away a little bit, as it cools, it forms a much better bond. And I can fill all that in with weld, and it'll actually it'll probably hold a little bit better when there's a gap in there. Seems like when I try to butt two pieces up against each other flush, it leaks worse. So after lots of cutting and soldering and welding, or whatever you want to call it, this is what I ended up with. So this is the pipe that actually fits. This is what came with the kit. I guess it's been modified at some point, so it doesn't fit the way it's supposed to. But this is how it looks in the car. So this is what it looks like whenever it's in the car. Goes right through there, connects there, runs underneath here, around, connects there, and goes down inside the rocker panel. I found some aluminum strips, ding, some little like 1/8 inch aluminum, and that's gonna go it's gonna get bolted right there and get soldered right here like this, so that this doesn't vibrate around or anything like that, and it'll hold it in place. So that's the next step, is what, hope you can see this. So right there, actually had to put a little dent in the pipe to give me some clearance, because I don't want metal on metal touching at all. Otherwise it's gonna rattle as I go down the road. So gave myself a little bit of a gap there, just pinched the pipe a little bit. And then the bracket is welded in place and screwed to the frame up there, and now everything fits really nice, very solid. Whenever I get this clamped in place and then clamped in place on the other end, it's not going to move at all, if any. And there's also going to be a fender here, which I'm going to trim really nicely to hold this in place as well, so it doesn't rattle at all. But I'm really kind of proud of this custom fabricated bracket. starting to get the turbos mounted. So we got the intercooler mounted in there. We got the first pipe around the wheels. Got the nice bracket to hold everything to keep it from vibrating. Got all the pipes welded down inside the rocker panel. They come out over here, right here. Let's see, can you see? So pipe comes out right here. We got this guy that connects to it, and it goes over the wheel arches. But before I start plumbing in this part, I've got to make sure that I have a way to connect the pipe right here to the turbo. But I got to hang my turbos and make sure they're all good. So, alright, so got the turbos mounted to the pipe. Got my pipe stuck over the axle into the exhaust, factory exhaust. The easiest way I found to get this thing on there is to put the whole turbo together with the exhaust pipe and everything. Go ahead and set it on a jack, and then use the jack to hold the weight of the turbo, because these things probably weigh like 30 pounds, maybe not 30 pounds. They weigh enough it's hard to deal with. Go ahead and bolt it to the flange, and then I can use the jack to put it in place. So I decided to use both muffler hangers because there's only one support for the turbo. I put both rubber mounts on there and then zip stripped them together, because what I found is that they were together, and then once I started moving things around, they would split apart. And so this will help hold them together. Just slide those guys on there, and hopefully I can jack it up in place and hang it where it's supposed to go. Almost. Here we go. Put the hanger bolt in place. There we go. Now the turbo is supported. Tighten this exhaust hanger down. One thing left is to try to kind of position that thing to get it, bend this bracket a little bit, get those two holes to line up. I'm actually the bolt that comes out of it, actually stripped on the way out. So whenever I was trying to take it out for the very first time, it actually stripped the hole. So I had to go and get me some of these things, which are called nut certs or riv nuts. And just to show you what they do is basically, I did some testing. So basically, you have a blind hole. I can't see the back side of it. So you stick this riv nut through the hole, and it basically is a threaded rivet, and it mushrooms on the, and this was just a test, so it looks terrible, but it mushrooms on the back side of there and locks everything in place, so then you have a threaded hole. Where we're at so far, so got everything plumbed in right there. And it looks kind of ghetto because whenever I cut the pipes inside the rocker panel, I cut them too short. I should have mocked up the whole thing and then cut it, which is what I'll do on the other side. This is just the driver's side right now. I have to duplicate all this on the passenger side, but so I got that part in there plumbed in pretty well. You can see that, and it runs up here in the wheel arch, goes back behind that bracket. That wire's there from the factory, I don't know why. Then it goes down here where it takes a 90. And so then it couples to the turbo right there, and then there's your intake. So comes out back here. And the oil charge, let's see, is up there on top. The oil drain is down there on the bottom. And then to pump everything, there's this really heavy duty pump. You'll notice the flow. This is the oil pump, and it is going to get mounted it's going to get mounted somewhere around there. Maybe a little lower, maybe a little higher. I'm not exactly sure yet, but it'll get mounted right there. So the bottom is where the turbos, and I'll show all this in a little bit, the turbos drain over here into here, then they get pumped back to the front of the car. The oil gets, well, I've already got that screwed in there kind of tight, but the oil gets put back to the front of the car that way. And it's gonna go up over the top of this, probably, well, no, probably gonna just shoot it right down through there. But that's the oiling system for the turbo. Because the turbos are actually gonna get plenty of ventilation, I'm not really worried about them overheating, so I'm not gonna run any coolant lines to them, even though they look like they have coolant. So I'm not really worried about them overheating, so, because the harder the turbos are gonna be working, the faster I'm going, so they'll be getting plenty of fresh air to cool them off. But that's where I'm at right now. Stay tuned.